This conference will now be recorded.
All right, and thank you so much. Take it away, Linda.
Okay. All right. So, I thought I'd start off by maybe playing something for you. My name is Linda Cusimano, and I am a pianist. My field of music is jazz. However, I've been teaching for literally over 40 years, believe it or not. I started very young, and I've developed a certain way of teaching that my students usually stay with me for a while. I love jazz because I love the art of jazz. I love the art of improvisation, and because it's extremely creative. The sky's the limit with that kind of music. So I'm going to start off with like just a little jazz standard classic song, and then get your questions ready. I really want you to be involved. If you want to, I know you have your cameras muted. If you want to, you can come on with me. Makes it a little easier talking face to face with people if you want to do that. If not, that's fine too. So I'm gonna start out with a jazz standard, and then after that, just have your questions ready, or I can show you different things about the. If you have your piano next to you and you want us to try something, and I'll show you some, whatever you guys want to ask me and do, that's good with me. Okay, so I'm going to start out with this tune. This is a jazz standard. Everybody plays it. A piece called "All the Things You Are." And
That
that's
was
that.
beautiful.
Thank you. Thank you. So anyway, again, I've been playing for a long time. I'm playing jazz since I'm a kid, brought up on it. My parents loved it. But I do teach classical, and I was talking to Sal before, and he plays classical music, and I absolutely love classical. I love pop. I love classical. Anything that has great melody and great harmony to it. So who's going to be my first question?
Well, can you maybe kind of give some tips for like beginning improvisation?
Sure. I think when you're beginning now, you know, in classical, if you classically trained, you grow up reading music, bass clef, treble clef, and it's a strict kind of thing. However, the one thing, even with little kids, I have a 5-year-old, and when he makes a mistake, he knows it. Why? Because he can hear it. And that's I think with improvising and learning to improvise is to hear it first and to be able to almost sing it in your head and then transfer it to the keyboard. You know, what you ever see some, like one of my favorite guitar players is George Benson. And if you listen to George Benson play guitar, he's always singing with it. And it became his trademark because he's singing the improv with what he's doing. But I think to be in the really, really infant stages of learning to improvise, I think the first thing you have to do is know how to construct, read a fake book, okay? So like to construct chords and inversions so that you're able to play the melody. Because all improv is creating your own melody. All I was doing there is using scales and using different things to create another melody over the same chord changes, okay? But and in jazz changes, it gets difficult because they're constantly coming at you. So what I do into teaching is to teach harmony. I'll take a song. I use this book here, like the Beatles fake book. Okay, Beatles music is great to learn how to do. You have to know the harmony before you can improvise. Okay, you have to know the chord structure of what you're improvising to. Now, there are people who improvise who don't know what they're doing, but they can do it because they're doing it by ear. That doesn't mean that somebody who reads is a better musician than somebody who doesn't, because I never read for a long time before I was improvising. So it's really about your ear hearing the stuff. Like, in other words, when you see guys playing, or guys or gals, okay, playing like a C blues scale, a C blues, okay? So you have this C blues, which is going to be like this. We've all heard this, 12 bars. Right? And we know Eric Clapton, we know B.B. King, blues, that kind of blues thing started off with that. And in jazz, there's jazz blues, and there's a scale that you can play with that. That is just a C minor blues scale. And that C minor blues scale goes like this. Okay, now that blues scale, the reason why blues is easier to play than regular jazz is because that scale, that blues scale, that's a C minor blues scale. That will go over that whole 12-bar blues. So all you have to know is that one scale, and keep the form of the blues, and you're improvising. Okay, that's a simple way of learning just to how to be creative. So in other words, so that watch you'll listen and you'll say. See, now all I'm doing there is I'm playing that blues scale, one blues scale, okay? And you can look that up, Google it, what that is. And keeping the form of the chord, the 12-bar blues. That's an easy way to start linear, what I call linear improvisation. Okay, when I was about, I think when I was 13, I was playing organ at the time. I wasn't even on piano, and I remember my teacher teaching me my first blues scale, and that was it for me. The sky was the limit after that, because I would sit there for hours just making up stuff that you can do that. However, you have to keep the form. You have to keep the 12-bar form. So am I answering your question okay?
Yeah, I think I just have issues like I can pick out a melody. All right, like I took lessons like over 20 years ago, and it was mostly classical, but I never felt like I could just go and sit down at a piano and play without sheet music or, you know. So improvising and kind of learning, you know, different inversions and kind of how to figure out, you know, like the harmony and melody, and just kind of making things a little more interesting as I, you know, just sit and noodle.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I mean, that the whole thing about music is noodling. I mean, if it sounds good, play it. That's my philosophy. There's, you know what? There's levels of musicianship, and as a person gets better, then you start hearing other guys play other things. You listen to records. You try and copy what's there, just like singers. You know what? I teach vocal because I am a singer also. So I teach some vocal lessons, and I have them listen to Barbra Streisand, listen to Judy Garland, listen to Ella Fitzgerald, listen to all these great singers, and see what you can grasp from them. Okay, so what I'm saying with it about that blues scale, if you just actually just learn that blues scale.
What were the notes in that you were doing?
Okay.
What was it? C, E flat?
C, E flat, F, F sharp or G flat, G, B flat, and C.
Linda,
Yes.
we have a question from in the chat box. Can you please briefly explain what the 12-bar form is?
Okay. Sure thing.
I'm sorry, Val.
Okay. The 12-bar form. Okay, it's obviously 12 measures. Okay, and I'll it's Erin, right? Erin, I'm going to get back to your question in a second.
Oh, that's okay. No problem.
Okay. The 12-bar blues is you know, I would have to let me just see. It's 12 measures, okay? And then it's a form that like a gazillion blues songs are created by, okay? So in other words, this is the first measure, okay? Change to F, second measure. Back to C. Okay. Another measure of C. Back to C. The 5 chord, which is G. Back down to F. Back to C. And your turnaround chord is G. And now it just keeps on repeating itself. Okay. Now, if you can, again, that's something you can look up simply. Just look up, you know, blues, 12-bar blues, and it will show you the form of it. Okay. And it just keeps on cycling. It keeps on cycling. So that blues scale. Now you can play other notes besides the blues scale in the blues, and people do. But just to start out, it's just a lot of fun, just starting out that way, where you can just, even if you just hold a C chord down, right, and you go like this. F. Now what I'm doing with making up that part, I'm not just playing this blues scale in the scale form. I'm messing around, staying with those, you know, this what Erin said before: C, E flat, F, G flat, G, B flat, and C, and it keeps on just repeating up. But you can go back and down all the way, just, you know. And what I tend to do rhythmically is try and do triplets, okay, like 1 and 2 and 3. So you have this and I'm trying to simplify it. I'm trying to simplify it as so that you can pick up on that. So am I answering your question?
Yeah, definitely.
Okay,
I think
great.
so.
Okay, good.
That was a question that came in the chat box, so
Okay.
I was asking it for Margaret.
Yeah, and if you look up on, you can just look up online, and it, you know, anything should just give you that example for a 12-bar blues. And again, now what's interesting about the 12-bar blues, and the reason why people have had their whole careers based around the blues, like someone like B.B. King, the king of blues, is because now there are different kinds of blues. There are minor blues. There are different kinds of blues. There are jazz blues where the chords start getting a little bit more intricate in that form, okay? And now that form can be also done in any key, okay? So I'm choosing C because C is the basic key for now. That's the easiest key to show things in. But you can do it in, you know, when I'm on a gig and someone says, okay, blues in F, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4. You're on F, 2, 4, 2, 3, 4. B flat. To F. C, 5 chord, 4 chord, and back to the root. Now, when you see it, if you look up online, I wish I had I don't have it here just handy, but if you look at it online, each chord comes from a part of the scale, okay? So when you have a C chord and the C chord is here, and when I say go to the 4 chord, you go up 4 intervals, 1, 2, 3, 4, okay? And that is your 4 chord, whatever the triad is. The triad meaning 3, okay? Triad meaning 3 means the 1st, 3rd, and 5th is your major triad chord. That's what I would start right from the beginning. You have to know your triads, okay? Major and minor, okay? Those are the basic 101 chords, major and minor chords, okay? And there's like a gazillion chords, okay? But you start out with this, okay? So that's a triad, the 1st, 3rd, and 5th of the C scale, okay? So when I say go to the 4 chord, you're going to go to F, the triad, okay? Okay, then I say go back to the root, which is we are in the key of C, so that's C, okay? When I say go to the 5 chord, you're going to go up 5 intervals, and that's your 5 chord. So G major is going to be the 5 chord, F major is going to be the 4 chord, and C major is going to be the root, which is 1, which is the 1 chord. So a million songs have been with a 1, 4, 5, and Martha, I know you know what I'm talking about. The 1, 4, 5. How many songs are pop
Countless,
songs?
right?
Countless. You go, shake it up, baby. Yeah, shake it up, baby. Twist and shout. Oh, Louie, Louie. Oh, oh. Okay, I can go on in the 50s forever playing those same progressions, okay? And so that would be considered a 1, 4, 5 progression. And a 12-bar blues is a progression because all it does is it goes 12 bars and it repeats, it cycles, it just keeps cycling over and over for, you know, however long the musicians want to play, okay? I'm gonna open, I'm talking a lot, but I want to hear more questions.
So Linda, my question, can you hear me?
Yes.
My question is, what's a good practice routine? I know you should practice every day, at least a half an hour, you know, but what is your practice routine that you recommend for a beginner or for somebody that's coming back to it, hasn't played in a long time?
Okay. I think in teaching for so many years, and I teach students from 5 years old to 80 years old. Okay. So the gamut is, and now that I'm on Zoom, I just got a student from Delaware. Okay. Now this student from Delaware used to live on Long Island, Googled me, looked me up because I taught him 30 years ago, and he wanted me back as his teacher 30 years later. Go figure. Anyway, so one of the things that in teaching, when I teach students, the hard part about playing piano is not understanding it. I think understanding it is the easiest part. I think the implementing of it is the fingers, is to get the fingers, the motor skills, to take what it takes to get what's up here, to pass through your heart, because music comes from your heart, to your fingers. Okay. So my thing, the first, I would say, 10 minutes of my lessons is just focusing in on exercises, finger exercises, Martha. The Hanon. I'm sure those who play piano, you've heard of Hanon before. Okay, that's these exercises. And I start them, and it starts very slow, and you'll see your left hand is weaker than your right. Your last two fingers are the weakest fingers all the time. So the Hanon exercises, and to do them to where you're feeling it in your hands, not just to do it once and then la-di-da, that's it. No, you do them until you can feel the burn. Okay, that's what I say.
It's like working out, right? It's your workout.
It is, because and I'm sure Sal knows from playing as long as he does, especially the classical music can get incredibly difficult to implement. You understand how it goes, once I show a student how, it goes overhand, and this and that, and there's an arpeggio or whatever, they understand, that's understanding is easy. It's just to connect your brain to the fingers to do that. And that takes, it takes time. I tell my students, anybody who starts with me, I tell them, be prepared, because you're a beginner for about 5 years. Until 5 years, you're a beginner, and then you're just scratching the surface of playing. That's why they don't even teach piano in school, because it's complicated. It's reading two staffs at one time. Those of you know what I'm talking about who play know that reading two staffs at one time, your brain is doing like 5, 6 things at one time, keeping the time, keeping the tempo, louds and softs. How am I touching the keys? It's just it doesn't end. But once you once you get to know what you're doing on there, and you're able to keep your fingers curved, and I have a lot of students, they play flat finger, that slows them down terribly, and I'm constantly nagging them, basically a nag the first 10 minutes of the lesson. Sit up straight, put your feet down. It's never ending. But I love them, and when I see them when they see themselves accomplish something because they're actually listening to the teacher, that then it becomes like the light bulb goes on. I love seeing that. So did I answer your question, Martha?
Yes, somewhat. So then after I go through the mechanics of practicing my scales, then, I'm just looking for a form for my practice.
Yeah, I would say about 10 minutes on your scales, on your exercises, scales, that, and then there are reading exercises, but you know what? You might as well just play the song you want to play. Okay. When you approach a new song and you're reading maybe not so great, usually what I do is I say you do your right hand first and do your left hand separately. Do both hands separately. And if you can do that in time, okay, and that is the crucial thing. There's no point in practicing if you're not going to practice with a metronome. And I will say that to my grave, okay? I've seen students, you know, what you're doing, and one of the things I say to my students all the time is practice doesn't make perfect. Practice makes permanent, okay? Perfect practice makes perfect. So you know how you're playing and your brain can't think that fast and you pause. Well, every time you practice that way and you are actually instilling those pauses, those stops in your playing, okay? So it is crucial that when you're learning a piece of music, do your right hand first, put the metronome on right away, if you can. If you're a beginner, I can understand that might be a little frustrating, but I have, 8 and 9-year-olds that I'm starting to use the metronome at their level. Once they start getting something, and then I start let them understand it's uneven what they're playing, and then I show them how to play it with the metronome. So I suggest that's the way to play it, and you really don't have any business putting both hands together until you can play the right and left in perfect time. Okay? Am I answering your question?
Yes. Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Go
Oh,
ahead.
go ahead. I was just going to say we have another question from the chat, but if you had an afterthought, please finish. Go ahead.
Well, one of the things that I find is also crucial. Students, you naturally read right hand to left hand. That is not the way to read music. It's always from bottom up. It's from the bottom notes to the top notes when you're reading a grand staff music, okay? And when you play, you don't, and I'm constantly on my students for this, because I can tell in 2 seconds whether they're reading right hand first to left hand, just the way they're playing, okay? It's always left hand plays first. You read the left hand first. It's the way your brain works. If your left hand first and your right hand follows, okay? When I'm playing and I'm playing like a stride piece of music like this, right? All I'm thinking about is that left hand keeping that rhythm. The right hand is on automatic pilot. That's the way that you have to play. You have to play and you have to read from left to right. I always say left hand drives the bus, okay? So that's really important, and I say it all the time, and I see students all of a sudden they're getting it, and now it's sort of opposite. Our default is to do right first, and we think, because most of us are right-handed. Even our left-hand students, they still do right hand. So I think we should add that to when you're reading music, Martha, what you're saying, when you're reading music, it must be from left to right, from bottom to up, bottom to top. Okay, go ahead, question.
Thank you.
So the one question we have is, how does the jazz scale differ from the blues scale, and how are they formed?
Okay, well, it's there are different kinds of scales. Okay, there's the blues scale, which I played before for you, and there's a C minor scale, which the reason why it's called the blues scale, by the way, is this. Okay, so your chord is C. Okay, and these notes, those flats, they're called blue notes. Okay. Blue notes, meaning that it gives that, if you know the composer Henry Mancini, and he did the Pink Panther, and he did all these things, these songs, he was very, very much, and so was George Gershwin. in Rhapsody in Blue. The incredible music that he wrote was very much based in blue notes, in blue notes, which is these. Okay, which those are minor. So now, what I'm doing there is I'm playing the blues scale. This is in blues, in the linear form. Okay, that's the blues scale. Now it can continue going up the octave back, and it can go back and forth, back and forth. Okay, so that was the blues scale going up and down. Okay, now when you can add. The question was, and what other notes that you can use in the blues scale? Well, actually, you can use anything. You can use a chromatic. Okay, what's a chromatic? Okay. Up half steps. Okay, so you can intertwine that into it. A C minor scale, you can go. Okay, minor makes it flat to third and flat to seventh. That's what makes it minor, because you have your major, you have your minor. Okay, so now you can also incorporate the major scale. So now I'm telling you, you can play all these scales in the C blues improv. Okay, so if I wanted to go like this. See where I did that? Where that was a chromatic scale. I'm taking bits and pieces and intertwining it, mixing it together. Now, I know it doesn't come in, you got to remember I've been doing it for a lot of years, so it comes a lot natural to me. I started doing this when I was 13, doing the blues scales, and I try to break it down. But if you start with the blues scale and just have fun with it, really, it's a lot of fun. Just have fun with it. Then try adding different notes, because if you're doing a C chord here, anything in the C scale will work, okay? It doesn't necessarily mean that it sounds good, okay? You have to use your ears. And not only that, you need to listen to people do it. You need to listen to the kind of piano you want to play. Well, listen to the people who really play it well, okay? Music is at our fingertips today. Just go on YouTube and listen to, some of the greatest pianists of all time are just at your fingertips. So it's really great. I hope I answered the question. So go ahead. You there?
I think that was Erin's question. I think she wanted to know if there's a jazz scale. Is that something different?
Yeah, you mentioned before that you were saying a blues scale and then a jazz scale. So I was just wondering, like, how they're formed, like what's.
Okay. Well, the thing is, when you're playing jazz, it's a series of chord changes. Okay, the chord changes are they're different chord changes. And remember before where I said 1, 4, 5? Well, that's the simplest, pop type of thing used by a thing. But when you start getting into jazz, they start taking these chords and progressions. For example, a song like "Fly Me to the Moon." Okay. Okay. That progression: A minor, D minor, G seventh, C major seventh. Okay, that is a progression, and so now when you're playing jazz, the first chord is A minor seventh. So now you have to think what works with A minor seventh. Well, the A minor seventh scale, which is easy because it's all white notes. Okay. And then D minor. G7 to C. Now that's the first 4 chords to Fly Me to the Moon. Now, so in jazz, the scales, there's, as you can see, a lot of those in this key, okay, a lot of those scales intertwine with one another, okay? So an A minor scale goes with a C because it's all white notes. That's the easiest way to put it, okay? So if I was playing an improv, I'd go. I'm trying to simplify it as much as I can so you can hear. Am I helping you that way? Is this helping you?
Yes.
Yes,
Yes.
definitely.
Okay. So when you're playing to a jazz tune, okay, you're taking the chord structure of that song. That's why you do jazz standards, and each jazz is a little more, it's a lot more complicated than pop music, but it has the formula. So you go through the whole head, which we call the head of the song. You're playing the melody, and then the second time around you start to improvise. Now I would suggest this: if you took a song like Fly Me to the Moon, okay, and you wanted to improvise to it, springboard off of the melody, because the melody was just somebody creating, just like you're doing an improv, okay? So if I want, when I mean springboard, start off like. Okay, now I just came up with like little something in there. Do you see how I springboard off of the melody? It helps me get the rhythms of what I want to play. Okay, so I hope I answered your question on that.
Yeah, because you talk about how you choose kind of like when you've got this melody idea that you're working on, how you go about finding the right chords.
Okay, so the chords are the chords to the song. Okay, so here's, you have the chords to the song is A minor. Fly me to the moon, G7, C major 7, F, B minor, E7. Now these are just the chords to Fly Me to the Moon. Okay, so essentially improvisation is keeping the same chord structure of that song and creating a new melody spontaneously. Okay, you think it, you say, oh my goodness, that seems really hard. You know what? If you start off easy, it's very enjoyable. I've been playing this stuff my whole life, and I'm not, there are guys out there that are scary good. I mean, really, really good, and even rhythmically, that they do stuff that their hands are going so fast you can't, if you've ever seen any real jazz players play, they're way ahead. Their thinking is like 5 measures ahead of what they're playing. Okay, so when you do like what I'm saying, springboard off the melody, lots of times jazz playing, I'm trying to break it down, where you go like this, you do like a question and answer rhythm things, because rhythmically what you play, it's everything, rhythmically what you play, how you're playing it. So I go like this. Okay, so I just did a little line. Okay, now I'll take that same rhythm and go to the next key. see how I just took that kind of rhythm and I did it in another key? But the chords dictate what we call as the target note. You want to land on a chord tone. Okay, so if the chord is A minor, you want to land on, or A minor seventh in this case, you know, A minor seventh is the first chord to Fly Me to the Moon. You want to land on, your target note should be landing on one of those notes, you know. If you don't, so what? You just try it again. You know, just keep on trying it. But in improv, when you're improvising to that kind of chord progression, they're harder, much harder chord progressions than say. That's why I start on the blues, because then this way you can get the feel of improvisation first before you do that. Did I answer your question?
Yes, definitely.
Okay, good. Hey, I'm doing good. This is my first time doing this. I'm having a ball. This is great. I hope you guys are enjoying it.
Yes, I have a question, Linda. I have trouble sometimes, like when I'm trying to pick out songs by ear on the piano, getting the intervals. Is there any way to practice? How can I improve my ability to hear intervals? You know, like, I don't have perfect pitch, and my relative pitch is good, but you know, I can't tell if I'm singing. Some people can say, "Oh, that's in the wrong key from what the original is in." I can't tell. If it's in the key for my voice, it's good. But the intervals on the piano, you know, sometimes it's like, you know, from 1 to 3, I don't know how to hear those things. Is there any way to practice to improve my ability to hear and then reproduce the intervals?
Yeah. So what you're saying, Martha, is you want to play a melody, and you want to just play it by ear because you have it in your head. Is that what you're saying? No lead line, no music at all.
Right. Exactly.
Okay. All right. So if you're taking a song like, okay, Somewhere Over the Rainbow, okay?
Okay.
And I'm going to stay in C because just for the ease of it, okay?
That's fine. That's fine.
You know, C might not be your singing key, okay? But just for the ease of it, just so you're saying. So can you tell me what the first 2 notes interval is of that song?
It sounds like an octave. Is it somewhere?
You just said do it.
La
You just
la 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 somewhere. It's an octave.
I
Is that right?
Yes. I thought you said you couldn't do that. You said you can't tell. That's exactly.
Well, sometimes an octave is easy, but like, you know, when it's the 6th or the, you know.
Yeah. Well, the thing is, right. But I think when you're trying to pick out something by ear, down the line, you just know what the note is. Like when I go to do a melody now, this wasn't always. I see my students doing this, fishing for notes. Okay, they're fishers.
Right.
Okay, so instead of hearing the note in their head first before they play the key, and then it's wrong, they'll go like, oh, there it is. Okay.
Right. Yes.
Okay. Right. Okay.
Yes.
So it's important to, what you just did was exactly the way I would suggest to do it, is you sing it. Okay. You sing it, and once you start seeing what the sometimes, you know, some people like, I use Over the Rainbow for an octave for students. Like if you could take a song that okay, so Here Comes the Bride is a 4th. Okay. So
okay.
you see what I'm saying? So,
yes. Yes.
So you can see Here Comes the Bride, right? So that could tell you that that's a 4th.
Right.
A 5th is Twinkle Twinkle Little Star.
Da, 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 da. Okay. I always think of the hunting call. Ba bum, ba bum.
Yeah.
But then those are the easy ones, you know. I mean, the 4th, okay, Beethoven's 5th is ba, 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 ba. Oh, that's down. But so what did you say the fourth was? Oh, Here Comes the Bride.
Yeah,
Bum, bum. That's a
yeah,
fourth.
that's a fourth.
So get a song that you can remember and then attach that to the interval
Yeah,
that you want to practice.
yeah.
Okay.
And,
Okay, that's good.
yeah, you can do that. Take a song. I just see, to me, getting the majors, you major in the major. Okay. The fourths, the fifths, and the octaves are given. Okay. Once you figure out a song, and by ear, and you play it enough, you will know by knowing that. And that's why with my especially my young students, I have them sing the words to the songs, and they stay right on key. Their vocals stays right with their most of the time, stays right with the notes that they're playing. Because if you can sing it, you can play it. Period.
Okay.
If you can sing
Okay.
it, you can play it. Okay. And
All right.
sometimes it takes a little while. Like if you want to get in a key, you want to find a key that you want to do. Well, eventually, well, I sing in the key of A or B flat. I'm more of an alto, so I know those songs, unless it's a weird song or something, singing that. But that's what I would do with the intervals, and start trying to do it from a different point. You don't have to have perfect pitch. You don't have to have any of that. Having perfect pitch doesn't really. I'm not saying that it's not good, because it is helpful, but it's not a main thing of playing. You know what I'm saying?
Okay. Yes.
Yeah. So
Thank you. Okay.
So if I started here, here comes the bride. You see how I'm saying? I'm starting on another note, and I can note. There's my notes. That's my interval.
Right.
Okay.
Okay. Cool.
All right.
Thank
Who
you.
else? Come on, Margaret, I haven't heard from you yet.
She was the one that asked about the 12-bar blues. She may not have like a microphone, so she's
Okay.
typing.
Oh, okay. Okay. And go ahead. Any other questions?
Erin, you got any more?
Yeah, just maybe like some suggestions. You mentioned that somebody who was your student many years ago got in touch with you, and kind of how did they pick up where they left off? Because I feel like I've been out of lessons probably. I took lessons for like 10 years, 20 years ago. So I feel like I'm crazy out of practice.
Yeah.
Tips to get back into.
How old were you, Erin, when you started?
Like from 7 to like high school, maybe like 17 or 18 years old.
Those are the ideal. 7 to 12 years old is ideal for learning the piano. I tell parents, I know they think I'm prejudiced because I'm a piano player, but you need to start them 7. Some of them start earlier, and it's tough. Like I have 2 5-year-olds, and it's tough because some of them can't even don't know letters yet. So now it becomes like, which hand is your right hand? Which is your left hand? We do the hokey pokey at piano lessons. So I can put your right hand in, and they put their left hand in. Okay. But when you studied, when you were that young, your brain was developing. And that's why we can remember things. Like I remember when I was like 9, and my mom wanted me to play like Georgie Girl or something crazy like that. And I sat there and it took me forever to do that. It took me forever to do that, like, because that was so hard for me. But 100 years later, which we're talking about, no, not for you, for me, I could still play that because your brain is developing that, and those memories, that time of you staying in time, learning how to do it, stays with you. I do not take, it's very rare that I'll take an adult that has not had lessons when they were 8, when they were a kid. even at least 2 years of lessons they had to have, because it's too difficult. Now they're like, 45 or 50 and they're retiring or whatever. They're 50, 60, they want to retire. I always wanted to play piano, but I never did. It's too late. Now I don't like to discourage people that not to take lessons, but it's going to be incredibly hard because you did not have that time when you were 7 and 8 years old to develop that in your brain. So you already have that, okay? So you played for a long time and now you stopped. Are you just starting to come back now?
I mean, I tinkered in between, but it's not, I feel like I stopped at a teenager. Like I can still remember like the sonatas and stuff that I, just by sense memory, if you put the sheet music in front of me, I would barely know what page I was on.
Okay, so you're doing it by memory, yes, by
Yeah.
muscle. We call that muscle memory.
Yeah.
Yeah. But that's important to have. You have to have that to play. Is that you have to have that. I think that if you made a practice of sitting down every single day and start with a new piece of music that you never played before, that it will come back very, very easily, very easily. And I've had some students, like one student, adult student, was 42 years old, and she started piano at 42 with me. But I took her on because she played flute when she was a kid, but never took piano. Well, in a year's time, she was playing both hands, reading. It's just, oh, it does my heart good to see that, because how much you accomplish by doing that. But so somebody like yourself who've had those lessons, it should come right back to you. Okay. It doesn't mean that you're going to play it perfectly or make mistakes, or you don't know, I forgot what that was. Maybe get yourself some lessons, get a teacher, just, online, and just get, that sometimes teachers, you're sort of forced into like sitting down and practicing because you have to face the teacher once a week.
Yeah.
And that sort of helps prompt you to get to the piano. But I know that when older students, I have students that they have just a love for the music and playing just for themselves. It's not to perform. It's not to do. It's just because they love it. There's a lot going on in this world. It's really nice to just get away from everything and sit down and create music and make music.
That's kind of why I wanted to go back to it. It was funny that you mentioned the Hannon book, because I was dusting off a whole bunch of books from my office and I came across my Hannon yesterday, and I'm like, oh, maybe I should like sit down and use this for a little while.
Well, that I always recommend that. There's two exercise books that I use. Is Schmidt's preparatory exercises, which helps that exercise books helps take you through the keys. Hannon is great just to get your fingers going. I just finished, and I want to show you this. This is my new CD, okay? And if you want to get a copy of it, I'm plugging it. It's okay. It's you just go to my website and you can get a copy, and all the proceeds are going to charity with the album. But it took me 2 years to make this CD, not because I couldn't do it. It's because that I had to have surgery on 2 of my fingers. I've been playing so long, and I'm a pretty aggressive player, so I really lace into the keys, and I had some terrible cartilage damage, not just from playing, but just just getting older. And in my ring fingers, I have like you have a knee replacement. Well, there's a joint replacement, and that's a titanium piece right here.
Wow.
In both fingers. So I had to put off doing it. But every time I went back to the Hannon, just like Erin said, go back to the Hannon and get your fingers back in shape. And because my dream was to have an actual jazz album. I have other albums, but jazz is what I I just love playing. I feel it's natural for me. And I had to have something before my fingers fall apart. But those hand-in exercises, get into them and start reading a little bit more. And please, look me up if you need any help with anything. I'd be more than happy to help you.
Yeah, I gotta tell you, my sight reading was pretty horrible to begin with back in the day, but I don't think it's going to improve in my 40s. But just like the muscle memory and just kind of, remembering chords and inversions, and I'm good with getting the melodies and things like that. But it's kind of figuring out which chords to use, what sounds better, what inversions to use, because
Right.
I want to sit and kind of play for myself now. It's not like taking
Right.
lessons, having a teacher, like that kind of thing. It's just nice to be able to sit and kind of,
Absolutely. And you have to remember something, Erin, okay? I was teaching before I could even read music. I don't know how I even did it, but I was able to teach students by just showing them how to play, and they won competitions. And I was like, okay, this is really bad. I'm a terrible reader. For my level of playing, my reading is not. I have some students that can read a lot better than me. That doesn't mean that they play better than me. Okay. My point is that if you're musical and it's something that you do and you have passion for and you're doing it, Paul McCartney couldn't read a note when he wrote Yesterday. Okay. The most gorgeous melody in the world. He couldn't, Eleanor Rigby, he couldn't read a note. And yet he wrote that music. It's not about reading and eyesight. It's about hearing the music. Okay. So don't let that, anybody out there who's not a good reader, don't be discouraged by that, okay? I'm living proof that you can still play if you're not a great reader.
So we're just about out of time, but we had one more question actually from Margaret. So I'm getting back to sort of the hand-in and going back to scales. The question is, do you have to memorize every scale in order to play jazz properly? Do you really have to know the scales in every key?
No. You know what? You don't have to know the scales in every key, because it's not. Again, I would start simple with the blues scales, the blues, just so to get an idea of what it is to actually create something. You don't delve right into just jazz changes, because there are a lot of intricate things. You have to know what scales intertwine with one another, and you don't memorize it. The word memorization never is even in the vocabulary of any jazz musician. Okay, it's instinctive. Okay, so that's why if you start out with the scale that's really easy, like just the blues scale, and you're just playing and you're hearing it and you're having fun, that's playing jazz. Okay, now it goes up to certain levels. I mean, these jazz players, they practice 10 hours a day, and then they still live in their parents' basements. Okay, but they're good because of that. Okay, but your average person is just wants to sit down and have some fun and be able to create. That's what jazz is creating something that sounds good to you. Okay, so you don't have to know every scale, but you just have to have an ear, and you're playing a chord. Does this chord, does that scale or that go with that chord? Try and match it up by ear. Listen to what you're playing and go like this. Or in thirds and fourths, and I mean, I could go on forever, and I don't want to go over our time here. So I hope that answers it a little bit for you. But like I said, hopefully we'll do this again, and you can learn some more. You there,
Thank you,
Sal?
Linda.
Thank you
Yep.
so
Great.
much.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
This was
Thank
great.
you.
Stop
Thank you.
recording at this time.
Okay.